Well, for more on this topic, we're joined by Jackson Webster, cybersecurity consultant at Legal Cluster. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
You heard that attorney in that report saying that there should be sanctions for media companies that don't regulate messages with a more efficient mechanism. We've talked about it before. Lies spread faster than the truth, it seems, on social media.
Absolutely. And of course, it's complicated to implement any kind of monitoring system, because as much as these companies might talk up the importance of artificial intelligence and monitoring networks, at the same time, there are still a significant amount of human moderators that end up getting involved in the process. I mean, there was an excellent report in The Verge a few weeks ago about Facebook's moderators and how these individuals end up kind of becoming the sacrificial lambs of the internet's darker corners.
Can you do it with an algorithm? You need a human being for this.
You do in a certain way for a number of reasons. Well, two main reasons. The first one is, of course, responsibility. There needs to be someone that's responsible for taking the decision as to whether or not a piece of content is going to be moderated, or at least a number of people, or perhaps a third-party contractor. But then more overall, I mean, AI systems are really good at identifying what may or may not be extremist content or any kind of undesirable content. Like, there's certain types of content that they're better at recognizing than others. But for example, white supremacist speech, is a difficult thing to regulate, or perhaps racial slurs are also a difficult thing to regulate, because they involve a whole context of of culture and of rhetoric, and it's very difficult to introduce slang into an algorithm, or to force an algorithm to understand the sort of cultural context of a joke.
Or to determine when perhaps something is, and politicians are very good at this, sending dog whistle messages, coded language that those who are on the recipients of it know exactly what it means.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and this is sort of where a lot of the more dangerous politicians will play in this area. I mean, being sort of outwardly, overtly racist, or using the sort of trigger words that are going to trigger the algorithms to find content is pretty easy to avoid. I mean, you can simply make references that anyone who sort of follows this line of thinking will understand. And the whole Redditization of debate on the internet is...
Sorry, what's the expression?
It's essentially, Reddit is a social network that is essentially an unregulated space, a little bit more so than Twitter or Facebook. And if you look at how discussions progress on Reddit or on 4chan and other unregulated internet spaces, there's this whole newspeak that the followers of either conspiracy theories or of a certain extremist view might develop that's almost impossible to understand if you don't understand the sort of context of where that speech came from.
In the case of Facebook announcing this ban on white supremacy speech, it's been nearly 2 weeks since the Christchurch attack. What do you think of the response so far?
Well, Facebook has engaged quite actively with authorities in the United States, and also especially in France, to identify and take down Islamic extremist content. They have not had a similar reaction to white supremacy, probably because of the touchy political nature of the subject, and of the fact that it's sort of a term that is difficult to pin down and define, and it's also difficult to define exactly where the line lies between acceptable opposition and disagreement, and then something that treads into racism, or and then eventually into an incitation to violence.
So it's doable. It's doable when it comes to pedophiles. It's doable when it comes to radical Islam. So it's doable.
It's absolutely doable, and it's absolutely imperative upon these platforms to be able to identify that type of content. But of course, again, there is always the sort of difficult to define red line of where does this content start and end. And in the end, that's not a decision that can be made by an algorithm. That's, I'm not going to say a political choice, but I mean, it is sort of a decision that needs to be made as to what is and is not, shall we say, acceptable online.
Yeah, and okay, so let's talk about this. These near lynchings that took place in the Paris area Monday night. That police were able to step in before anyone was killed, but there's huge alarm. In that case, you have prejudices against a community, and then fueled by this rumor, which goes viral on the internet. What can be done? What should have been done, perhaps, to avoid this? Well,
really, the effect that social media has on things like this is an acceleration. And this acceleration is caused by a number of things. For me, I would say that the sort of replacement of local news with news transmitted instead by social media, shared amongst friends and family on Snapchat or on WhatsApp, is one of the main dangers, because you're eliminating a gatekeeper that would have otherwise caught a story like this. I can imagine, if you had a more powerful, local news apparatus like you may have had in the past in certain areas, the editor of, this or that newspaper would have caught a story like this and said, well, wait, there's no confirmation that any of the things that are being said in this story actually happened. We probably shouldn't publish it until we have that kind of confirmation. The kind of fact-checking any professional journalist does, but individuals don't necessarily do thorough fact-checking before they send a Snapchat text or a WhatsApp text.
Is there any element of self-regulation we can hope for when it comes to rumors going wild on the internet?
I think that people are slowly becoming more streetwise. I use that word because there was a campaign by the UK's government a few years ago called Cyber Streetwise, basically trying to argue that that no matter how technical or untechnical your expertise is, you should be able to be streetwise on the internet the same way that you might, lock your door when you leave your house. You should, pay attention to links that you click on in emails and this sort of thing. And, perhaps there are, especially with younger generations, people that are becoming more used to living in an environment of social media and therefore, becoming less trustworthy. But I think that is more something that needs to sort of play out as the new media system cements itself and develops.
Yeah, so one final question on this, because we're going to be talking about in our upcoming edition, this measles hoax about the measles epidemic, which could, the measles vaccine, which could cause autism. And now we have measles epidemics as a result of people not vaccinating their children anymore. A state of emergency declared in a county north of New York City this week. These rumors are old, and people are still believing them.
Well, a lot of things like conspiracy theories in particular are particularly susceptible to the echo chamber effect of social media, meaning that, if you're only a member of certain Facebook groups or you're only, following certain people on Twitter, you're of course only going to be exposed to certain types of opinions. And this creates this kind of solidarity of, oh, I've found a bunch of other people who think the way that I do. And it's sort of this self-reinforcing effect of, of not being able to change your opinion once you're confronted with other
So
things.
How can ordinary viewers be more cyber streetwise when it comes to the rumor or the fake rumor of a white van kidnapping people for organ trafficking or the measles?
I mean, as a personal philosophy, I think that the you are what you eat metaphor used for nutrition is a good one as well for media consumption, and that just in general having sort of a broad, diverse diet, if you will, of media consumption is sort of a healthy thing to have, and that if on social media, you notice that you're essentially never being exposed to sort of serious, well-researched opinions that are not exactly in agreement to yours, that perhaps you have siloed yourself, and that in general, the sort of when presented with facts that might contradict your opinion, the reaction should be, oh, well, I need to find, if these are true, or I need to investigate this, as opposed to simply, having a gut reaction against those facts that contradict your own opinion.
All right, Jackson Webster of Legal Cluster, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.